Well, good morning, good afternoon. It's been one of those days. I'm Diane Young, and as a rep, I'm speaking tonight as a representative of South Pacific Private Hospital. And before I start, I'd like to begin by paying my respects to the local Indigenous people of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, the traditional custodians of this land that we're meeting upon today. I also want to acknowledge that today is International Women's Day, and I know many of you would have been looking at the posts on Facebook and talking amongst yourselves with other women and thinking about perhaps how far we've come and how far we have to go. But I particularly wanted to talk tonight about, as a woman, and on this particular day, about claiming our place as women in recovery. And the title of this Facebook event is Women in Recovery. And by that I mean across the broad band of all sorts of recovery. Now, of course, because I'm speaking on behalf of South Pacific, which is a trauma-informed hospital that deals with addictions, mood disorders, PTSD, grief, any number of other things. That's the kind of recovery I'm talking about. So I'm not specifically talking about 12-step recovery, although that plays an enormous part in many lives of the people who have taken the opportunity to go to South Pacific Private, and certainly plays an enormous part in my own life. So I am a woman who is in recovery. I've been in recovery a very long time. I haven't always been this old, and I know that the things I have in my life, many good, some not so good, and some questionable, relate back to the fact that many, many years ago I admitted defeat and actually came into recovery, and I've been in it ever since, and that's a blessing for me. And one of the things I know about the time that we're living right now, it's the 8th of March, 7 o'clock at night. I'm looking out the window. It's not pouring right now, but it seems to have been raining forever. I'm also conscious that we've just come through that pandemic, and we're to some extent still in it, and we're sort of moving out of that. And we're also witnessing horrific scenes of women and children being displaced in Ukraine by a totalitarian regime. One of the things a friend of mine said to me today on the phone, she wasn't sure if her husband came up with the wording or he'd heard it from someone else, but he said it's a bit like we're living in the age of anxiety. Now, all of you know that anxiety is a word that I have trouble with, because anxiety to me is fear. And fear in and of itself is a healthy emotion. It's when it gets to that toxic level of panic and terror that we're really in trouble. If we take notice of fear when it turns up, we get the gift of fear, which is in fact wisdom. Fear is an acronym in 12-step rooms of face everything and recover. There's also another lot of words, but I won't repeat them because they're not very salubrious. So let's work with face everything and recover. I think it's a time for us to be gentle with ourselves, to not be too extreme in our fear of what's happening, although it is a very frightening time. And certainly I limit my amount of time to watching the news, because I don't want to get totally overwhelmed by it, and I do what's in front of me. I do what I can with what I have from where I am, and that's all I can do on a daily basis. I think being a woman's a superpower. That's my take on it. I'll often say to clients and other women, friends of mine, when we're discussing things of a difficult nature, sometimes you've just got to put your big girl pants on and have a go at things. I'll often say, and a colleague of mine said to me recently when they asked me if I'd done something, I said, no, I don't think I'll do that because I'm a bit worried about getting a no. And she said, well, that's what you always say to everyone. Just ask the question, because the worst answer you're going to get's a no. And there's some truth in that, isn't there? In the early days of recovery, and I'm talking nearly 47 years ago, it was the 12-step programs are very patriarchal. In fact, back in before 1939, they didn't actually think women could be alcoholics or addicts, come to that. And it wasn't until a woman named Marty Mann in 1939 was in hospital for alcoholism and met Bill Wilson and Lois Wilson, who helped her get well. Now, she was the first one, and she's an extraordinarily interesting woman if you have a look at some of the things that she did in her life. She was a lesbian before her time. You know, there was a lot of things that she did. She wrote a number of books, Marty Mann's primer on alcoholism. She raised the awareness of alcoholism as a disease. And she was the first woman actually ever to get into recovery. Now, I wanted to talk a bit about getting into recovery as a woman and some of the things we face. And I guess it depends what stage of your life you're coming into recovery. Now, I came into recovery at a young age, so I had no relationship to speak of. I had no children. I had no career. I didn't have much of anything, really, when I think back on it. And I do know that there was a way paved forward for me by the other women who went before me, all of whom were significantly older than me, who said to me things like, if you get clean, get sober, get into recovery, stay into recovery, you can actually have a go at anything. The only thing that they were asking me not to do was to drink or take drugs. That was my primary addiction. I then learned as years went on that I had to watch for depression and anxiety, of course, and I also learned some years into my recovery that my childhood trauma had come up and snuck up on stocking feet as I got clean and sober, and I had to look at my complex post-traumatic stress disorder. So, you know, there's been a sort of breadth of things that I've had to look at. I wanted to talk first of all as a single person about relationships in recovery. Now, I got clean and sober before there were dating apps. I got clean and sober in the days when a man had to, or woman, depending on your sexual preference, of course, had to walk across a room and talk to you before they got your phone number. They couldn't Google you, they couldn't find out who you were, and they'd often ask their mates, you know, who is she, or, you know, is she with anyone, or is she dating anyone, all that sort of thing. So, you know, I'm in a different era to what's happening today, but I do have many clients who are on the dating apps, you know, swipe right, swipe left, swipe left. And one of the things I often say to them is, it is to the extent that we value ourselves. So, you know, what's your self-esteem looking like? How do you feel about yourself? What do you think about yourself when you're in quiet moments alone? You know, do you think you're enough? Do you think what you offer is enough? And if we're not actually coming from a space of feeling whole inside and going to the other to make us feel whole, then we will automatically get into dysfunctional relationships. It's also the concept of, you know, learning where I begin and end and where you begin and end. What's the point at which I say to you, I don't want you to fill me up. I'm not coming into this relationship so that you make me whole. I'm coming in this relationship because I actually want to get to know you. I want to have some fun with you. So if I'm going to a relationship where I want someone to fix me or make me better or pay my bills or put a roof over my head, I'm on the back foot before I've even started. And also, you know, that concept of if we come from a dysfunctional family system and reality is very fluid, there's a lot of gaslighting going on, there's some abuse but no one's talking about it, or maybe no one's saying anything about anything. Maybe it's not that there's overt abuse, but it's covert. There's no conversation about how does anyone feel about anything. So we're not in reality about ourselves and where we fit in the world. And I think also the other staggering thing for me is when we're wanting to be in relationship with people and we have to make some choices about, if I'm a person who lives a recovery way of life, or maybe I meditate and you know, I do some exercise, I keep an eye on what I eat, you know, just the general things to keep us healthy. Am I going to get into a relationship which is with someone who's drinking a lot, or someone who works 80 hours a week, you know, or someone who's a regular cocaine user? And if I am I ignoring the red flags of what's happening? Because there's a certain way as a woman in recovery that I have to live if I want to stay healthy and well in myself, if I want to feel comfortable in my own skin, whether I'm in a relationship or not. So often it's whether I'm paying attention to the red flags that turn up in my life, or in my life when I'm in a relationship or starting to enter it. I did hear someone years ago say to me, an older lady, she said to me, men will tell you who they are in the first 15 minutes that they meet you. Pay attention. And I thought it was an extremely simplistic way of viewing men. And I like men well enough, it's not that I don't. But what I noticed is it's true. So next time you meet someone, listen to them, because they'll tell you who they are in the first 15 minutes. I think we all do that. Women do that too. I think also the thing about women in relationships is that in recovery, is that we often carry a higher mental load. We're juggling more if we've got family, if we've got children. It's always a fascinating experience. I had my daughter in recovery, and I had made a decision many years ago, prior to this, that I didn't want to have children. I came to understand that the reason I made that hard and fast decision was that I hadn't done enough work on my family of origin. So it was only when I came out of a relationship that it was a sort of functional coming out of it, if you get my drift. But I was in some pain around it because I didn't really want to be marrying someone and then ending a marriage with him. But what I realised was that I had to go back and do some work on my trauma and my family of origin. And it was an eye-opener to me, given I'd been sober a number of years by that stage. The interesting thing was that when I'd done enough work on that and healed enough, it was largely my relationship with my mother, I was very open to having a child. So I, of course, married a man and had a baby girl. And when she was 7 weeks old, or 6 weeks old, he was complaining of being very tired. And I said, well, go to the doctor and get sorted out. We'd bought a house and, painted houses and, all that nesting stuff you do when you're going to have babies. And it transpired that he had a spot on the lung. Now, he went to hospital. Very quickly they moved into action. I didn't really know what was going on. And quite frankly, I was struggling with breastfeeding. Like, what did I know about anyone who was really sick? I'd never had any real sickness in my life. And so they put him in hospital on the Monday. He was operated on the Tuesday. He had lung cancer. He was full of it, and the spot had been the only good bit left of his lung. And very suddenly it was Thursday, it was not looking great, and by the Friday he had died. So there was a sort of time stamp in my life where the whole thing stopped. Now, I think it's fascinating for me now. That was 31 years ago. That daughter of mine, who was 7 weeks old at the time, is now 31 years old. She's a mother herself. She has two beautiful little children, two grandchildren. And I didn't put recovery on the back burner. And I'm not brilliant at this stuff, trust me. Anyone who knows me will tell you that. But what I knew was that if I didn't hang on to my recovery, I was not going to be anything like I needed to be in terms of a mother to her and run the business I had, because I had started a business 2 years before. The point I'm trying to make is that oftentimes, even in recovery, with all the knowledge we will have curveballs thrown at us. And my experience is that it's only the amount of stuff that I've done prior to the critical event happening, that will hold me. I can't suddenly be in the middle of a crisis and go, oh my God, now I've got to pay attention to my recovery. It's like saying, oh, now I've got cancer, I better watch what I eat. Well, maybe you should, but the point is, it's the fact is that it continues and it grows, and we have to keep aware of every day paying attention to ourselves. Now, I was talking to why we put ourselves in a position where we often say yes when we mean no, why we can be in a cataclysmic event like that grief I was in. And I can tell you now, I was sort of in grief for about 5 years. And it was like wading through quicksand. I've never been so tired in my life. I had a business to run, I had a baby to look after, and I had an alcoholic mother that was ringing me at 3 o'clock in the morning saying how tragic it was that her son-in-law had died. not helpful. I just had to pull people towards me that could support me, not in a dependent way, but just people who could say, well, look, I can look after the baby for you then. And, you know, I got a whole bunch of people around me to support me. I don't think there's anything more terrifying, and I talked earlier tonight about living in the age of anxiety. I don't know that I was particularly anxious at that time. I was devastated by what I was facing, and I was devastated that as a sober woman and a woman who'd done a lot of work and been of service and done all the things we're supposed to do, helped other people, was faced with this cataclysmic event. And the only thing I had going for me was that I had a good group of people around me, and that every day I could put my feet on the floor, get out of bed and do the best I could with the day. Not drink and take drugs, that's for sure. You know something, when my daughter had her first child, my first grandchild, she rang me when Lily was 7 weeks old, and she said, Mum, Lily's 7 weeks old today. I said, yeah, I know that, darling, it's great, isn't it? And she said, this is how old I was when Dad died. And I said, yeah, I know. And she said, how did you get it? I don't know how you did it. And I said, well, I don't know how I did it either. I just put my feet on the floor. But it brings me to the next point of, first and foremost, women in recovery need to heal themselves. And I know that that's very difficult when you face single parenting, as I did for many years, when you were trying to earn a living, which I had to do. It wasn't a bean of life insurance when Nick died. I just had to kind of get on with it and, make a choice. And we make choices every day. And the thing I know about choice is that if I'm not changing what's happening in my world, if I'm not happy with it and I'm not changing it, then I'm choosing it. Let me say that again. If I'm not changing what's happening in my world and what I'm not happy with, then I'm choosing it. That is, I'm accepting unacceptable stuff in my life. And if I, as a woman, don't actually step into some sense of power in my life, and yes, I might need to ask a whole bunch of people for help. I might need to get support around me. But I believe it's, for me, it was available. And I was living on the very north of the Northern Beaches at that time. I was very disconnected from a lot of my friends who were in the city. And as soon as I was able to, I moved back into the city where I could connect with friends that were closer to me. The things I find fascinating about recovery is this. It is ever changing. It will not stay the same. Whatever's happening in your life right now will not stay the same. Whatever has not been addressed in my history will come up and knock me around if I don't pay attention to it. And that's why things like the day programs at South Pacific or 12-step recovery or both, or seeing a therapist, is the best way to go. I want to just finish by saying that I believe recovery is fivefold for women. It's physical. What am I doing to take care of myself? How do I sleep? How do I eat? Do I get enough exercise? And I'm not talking about running marathons, trust me, I don't anymore, I used to. How am I mentally? What's my mental talk? What's my self-talk to myself? What am I saying to myself? My emotional state. Am I able to feel my feelings? I think it was Gita Bellin who did some work years and years ago. I did some work with her. She used to say the fastest way to freedom is to feel your feelings. Well, that's very like what Pia Melody would say, How am I emotionally feeling? And am I able to express what I'm feeling? And if I'm not able to feel my feelings, what am I doing about it? My spiritual life. And it doesn't matter. I'm not talking about religion there. I'm talking about spiritual. What do you believe in that's outside of you or bigger than you? How do you connect spiritually? I had a client in here the other day and he said, when I need to do it, I just go for a surf. When I need to do it, I get in nature. It's like whatever it is that works for you. And of course, for women, I think also financial recovery is important. And there are many programs that can help you manage your money. And I don't think you should ever step away from that, because I think there's a lot of choice and freedom comes into your life if you have financial independence. So I want to just wrap it up there. I mean, I could keep talking. I don't want to do that. But I have got a question that's come through. The first one is, my 11-year-old granddaughter is so crippled with anxiety that she can't go to school. What is that fear and how do we rein it in? Well, my suggestion would be that there's some history of hers where she doesn't feel that she's supported and she's able to speak openly, and that's not any sort of comment on you. But what I do want to say, actually, this is a good segue, thank you for the question, is that South Pacific runs a parent and children's program, and it will be running on 2nd and 3rd of April, I believe, and it's going to be for 9 to 16-year-olds. And the way it runs is it runs over a weekend. You go home Saturday night, you don't stay at the hospital, and the children work together downstairs with the therapist downstairs, child psychologist, I think, and the parents go upstairs and do their work too. So it becomes a family thing. So I'd be perhaps suggesting that it might be very helpful for her to know that she is not the only one that's crippled with anxiety. I think a lot of us are very frightened, as I said at the beginning of the session. Next question is, as an empath and chronic codependent, oh God love you, I'm struggling with vicarious anxiety. I feel so weighed down with it. Well, of course, with what's going on in the world, I can quite understand why you have vicarious anxiety. And that speaks to me about boundaries, you know. It talks to me about, where do I begin and end, and where do you begin and end? And how much do I take off? If you're an empath, it's going to be tough for you because you're going to feel everything. But even as an empath, you know, a lot of therapists have to do this too. It's like we have to boundary externally, and we have to boundary internally. If we don't have an internal boundary from our heart to our abdomen that protects our truth, we'll let it all in. It's like it's overwhelm. It's too much. And I totally understand right now, at the moment in the world, and even in your life, that you can totally feel overwhelmed by the fact that we feel powerless. I mean, can I do anything about the rain? Absolutely not. God knows I wish I was that powerful. Can I do anything about Ukraine? No, I can't do that either. I can make a donation and I can be supportive of anyone who needs help. But I can't do anything about that. And can I do anything about COVID? No, I can keep myself safe and my family safe, and that's available too. Question, is there support available, financial independence and recovery? Well, my answer to that would be, if you need help in the financial independence and recovery, attend some Debtors Anonymous meetings, because there is also another fellowship called Underachievers Anonymous. I found out about recently. And I have a client who went to that and had great success as a result of going to that. So I think there's a lot about waking up and not getting drunk on money, if I can use that term, not being unconscious around money. Can you give any examples of how recovery changes over the years? Yes, I can give you plenty of those. So, how does recovery change over the years? Well, when I came in, I was frightened, unable to speak up for myself, took absolutely everything on board. If you looked at me the wrong way, I thought it was my fault. It was my fault if the rain rained, you know. So, yes, you would firmly put me in the realm of codependency, and what I learned as I worked my way through the 12 steps to deal with my addiction, and then also later on as I got into serious therapy, was that I could hold both in my hands and I could navigate my way through it. So that I had to work on my trauma, which is therapeutic, have a look at what I carried from my past, have a look at the intergenerational trauma, but also then as I moved into, say for example, when I stepped out of my first marriage, I claimed the fact that I could do things on my own, that I was capable of actually standing up and having a go at things that were difficult, and accepting that some things were going to work and some weren't. See, recovery is not about not taking risks. but it is about taking healthy risks. And I've certainly do that throughout the years in my recovery. My relationships became harmonious because I was able to communicate better with people in my life. Because I stopped being passive aggressive, I started talking up about how I felt about things. I could hear no from other people. Can you hear the no? It's often very difficult, you know. I had a belief for a long time that if I actually, if I just explained to you how I felt about something, that you would hear what I had to say and you would change and then we would be fine. And it was always a total shock to me that I could explain it all and you didn't want to change at all. So that was pretty fascinating. And you know, as I've moved on, I think my spiritual life has gotten more significant. I just want to say that what I believed when I first came into recovery is not what I believe now. It's not what I believed 10 years ago. It's not what I believed 20 years ago. And that holds me quite solidly in my life. And I'm not religious. I don't observe any religion per se, but I actually take from all sorts of different places so that I can grow spiritually and continue to grow spiritually, to continue to keep it fresh. Another question is, what can you suggest for couples who want to stay together and work through love addiction and avoidance apart from the family workshop? Well, I mean, I'm thinking you mean the family program there, and what I'd be suggesting is you might want to consider doing the love addiction, love avoidant workshop. I think that's very fascinating work. It's the next layer down. We come in with our various mood disorders and addiction. We work, for those of you that know the South Pacific model, the Pia Melody model, we work with that. We then, have family program. We have the parents and children's program, which is, I think it's cutting edge, really. And then the next level down is Changes 2, and then the one after that is the Love Addiction, Love Avoidant workshop. It's fascinating work because you'll look at all of your relationships in your life and you'll look at where the original wounds came from that you then play out in your relationship today. Fascinating work. It's all very fascinating. Can you suggest where to look for mentorship coaching for women? Wow, that's a very interesting question. I haven't got a definite answer for that, but certainly I'd be inclined to go to the Coaching Institute because I'm sure that they would have that. And I also think mentorship for women is very important. I'll often walk down the street and if I see a woman wearing a fabulous outfit, I'll often say, that's a fabulous outfit. And they'll go, oh, thank you. I just think we can praise one another. I don't feel like if you're doing better than me, or I think, you're looking better or you're sounding better or you've got a better relationship or whatever the hell it is, I don't think that makes you better. I think it just means that you're kicking a few goals and good luck to you for that. I think that's where we need to be. So the mentorship and coaching for me, I've found through my 12-step programs and some of the therapists I work with, I find to be inspirational. Many of them I would certainly take anything to. So I would certainly start in that arena. Because I do think we need people in our court. We need people in our corner. Very recently, and I'm going to finish on this, I was talking about doing some professional development. And a colleague of mine, very well experienced colleague, said, you should look overseas. And I went, yeah, right, it's COVID, that's going to happen. And she said, look, I'll send you a link. And I went, okay, because she was very willing to support me. Anyway, it was a link to an advanced training in Milan, Italy. Now, I didn't think I was going to do that, but I applied. I thought they won't say yes. I don't know why I thought they wouldn't say yes. There was a whole bunch of reasons, doesn't matter. Anyway, 2 days later, they came back and said yes. Now, if that colleague of mine hadn't have made that comment, and then my colleague here hadn't said to me, have you applied for that? And I said, no, I'm not applying because it's not going to. She said, just submit it. Because the worst you're going to get to know, Diane. That's what you tell everybody else. I had to take my own advice. Submit it, press the submit button, said it's in the lap of the gods, and there you go. off to Milan on Thursday to do some training for 10 days. So there you go. You just never know what might happen. I hope today's been helpful. I'm grateful for those of you that logged on. If you think recovery is going to be boring, think again. It can be the most exciting adventure that you've ever had in your life. But it's actually up to you how much effort you put in and how much you reach out for support and help. Because in my experience, no one ever in my life, when I've said, could you help me with this, or would you help me, or could you explain this, no one has ever said no to me. No woman has ever said no to me. And for that, I'm very grateful. So thank you very much on behalf of South Pacific. Thank you very much for joining us. Remember the Parents and Children's program, 2nd and 3rd of April. If you've got a 9 to 16-year-old, it'd be worth giving them a call and having a chat with them about it. All the very best to you, and have a safe evening.